Okay, looks like we got a good live stream going. All right. Um, so my name's Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Oh, it's another cold day, but it's just the end of the rain for a while anyway. So we're on Sunday, January 18th, 8:02 in the morning, and it's raining, and it's going to be raining for quite a few hours into the evening, maybe the night. The forecast is showing a high of very low for us, 57, and it's going to stop raining around sunset. No, no, it's going to rain until late evening, like 8, 9, 10. Then it'll be over. And tomorrow, partially sunny and the same high, 57. And then Tuesday, full sun and high of, again, 57. And then Wednesday, cloudy. I don't see rain. Again, high of 57. And then Thursday, cloudy, 60-degree high. Friday, we get up to 64, and they're giving us a 50% chance on Saturday of having rain, but that's quite a ways off, and I don't know how accurate it would be. And that seems to be a 1 day shot, and then after that, we got sun, and we go up into the mid 60s. So it's not that bad. I don't know what's going to happen next Saturday, and it's it's very, very uncomfortable. And, it very likely can go another month like this. It really can. The weather in Israel is really, I would refer to it as punishment weather. That's the term I use, punishment weather. Okay. Let's see what's going on in the live stream. It looks like it's working. Let's see what's going on in the live stream. Thanks to the moderators. Appreciate the help much. Okay, I'm going to put a post up, which will take a few seconds while people are coming in, and then we'll get going. Well, it's Sunday here in Israel. Okay, I got that done. And we got a whole lot of important news to cover today. Let me do a praise because we are a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, guys, I'm getting harassed again from the Gov. You know who the Gov is. So please pray for me to not have to waste my time dealing with the Gov. Okay? Appreciate it. Thank you. It's harassment. That's all it is. Intentional. It's happening to other Messianics. You know. This is, let's hear it from Netanyahu. This is the safest country for Christians in the Middle East. A two-faced piece of trash. He's just a piece of garbage, He's the poorest excuse for a human being is this backstabbing Netanyahu, and the people in Israel, a lot of them know it. There was a headline here. Let me read it to you. I don't want to, well, I could give you the publication too. Let me get it. Where did it go? Is this it? No. There it is. This is from Haaretz newspaper, a big newspaper in Israel. Will Netanyahu pull a Trump and try to stay in power after losing an election? See what we get with this piece of garbage? That option is in the works, sources say. And after all, Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana once said that not every high court ruling must be respected. Benny Gantz loses his integrity, not just that's a different topic. Okay, so yeah, now that could happen as a vote of no confidence, or that could happen in October when they hold new elections, if prophecy gives us that much time, which I would doubt highly. But anyway, maybe I'm wrong about October. I don't know. I could be wrong, So what? This is horrible. Why would he do that? Well, for one thing, if he loses his presidency, the attorney general is going to say, appear in court. Your trial proceeds immediately. And if he doesn't appear, they'll send police to pick him up and bring him to jail, bring him into court. And then he'll have to testify, and then they'll have a decision, and they'll probably send him to prison. And he probably won't get out while he's alive. He'll die there. As a guess. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. If he was so squeaky clean, he wouldn't be so freaked out about the whole thing, So that's what's going on. One of the people in his court, not really in his court, the right wing Ben Gvir, said he was envious, or words to that effect, about the protests, the way Iran was dealing with the protests in Iran. So what he was basically saying, Israel should deal with the protesters harshly, like Iran does. Of course, Iran killed them. What kind of mouth did this guy Ben Gvir open up? Remember, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, the two right-wingers, were promoting a bill when they first got elected, before the war started, making it a crime if you spoke the name of Jesus or Yeshua within earshot of a minor. They were constituting that as evangelizing minors, which is against the law in Israel, evangelizing minors, not people that are over 18. I believe 18 is the minor cutoff. So, They wanted to have a 90-day jail sentence and fines and stuff like that for people using the name of Yeshua or Jesus publicly around children. That might have stopped internet broadcasts. You might have had to specify that your broadcast was for adults only or something. I don't know. Okay. Netanyahu, the Christian lover that just hates Jewish Christians, so to speak. There is no such thing, but he says that. They say that. Okay, he got the law quashed because the non-Israeli, so-called the Esbot Christians, they support Israel, which should tell you right away something's wrong with this Israel. If they support it, you should figure that out right away. And they would be in a lot of trouble here. They wouldn't come here. They wouldn't support Israel. So he got it kiboshed. And they're likely the ones stirring the pot against the Messianics, and they're also against the Christians too. They don't like the Christians. There's more and more incidents I hear about vigilantism in the West Bank against the Arabs. Excuse me. Ben-Gvir doesn't seem to like the idea of them being punished for that. He does good stuff too. But you can't trust the guy. Okay, he does do good stuff. He really does a lot of good stuff, but you still can't trust him. No, he's not trustworthy. Smotrich is still bad too, but he does good stuff too. So you get the good and the bad with them. There is no such thing as anybody in this democracy in Israel that I could say is good. There was a guy I liked, but Netanyahu drove him out of politics. And there have been a few that pop up from time to time. Not Satan bots, so they get driven out. They don't know how to defend themselves. But this Netanyahu got to go. I mean, he really got to get thrown out by a vote of no confidence or voted out. If he refuses to leave, I would tell you Israel will have civil war. And I'll also tell you this jackass Netanyahu, in my opinion, I don't think he cares about anything as long as he stays out of jail. In other words, if he sees he's going to jail, he might throw Israel into so many big wars, that Israel gets completely busted up and there is no more government and everybody would scatter. Now, God won't let that happen, but this jackass would try it if he had to. Other people in the government may not let him do it. And they might overthrow him. I don't know. It's really bad with him. I mean, he's the worst thing that I could imagine ever happened to Israel. No, Shamir was bad. There were other really bad ones, but this one's run so long. Anything good, he's against. Period. I mean, that's it. Anything good for Israel and the people, he's not behind it. He's against it. I can't tell you anything he ever did good for Israel. Never, not one thing. Look back at what happened during COVID with this piece of crap, with Pfizer and everything else. Go back and look at that. He hasn't changed. He just looks for new opportunities. Look, most governments in the world, if not all of them, every government in the world is run by despots. And the governments are enemies of the people. The only ones that they're friendly with is the Satan bots. Everyone else is their enemy. They're not friends of anybody. Look at America. Look at Canada. Look at Mexico. Wherever you want to look, it's the same story. Okay, it's time for Satan to come down. The 2,000 years is over. At least in Israel, he's out. Piece of garbage. There's this person, I believe, has got some. We went after somebody that's been giving me problems with the initial A as an alpha. And I think A as an alpha was trying to get cute and go, oh, I'm a good witch. I know how to beat him. And just get other people to help do it. So, in other words, we bound up A from doing it. So then A goes out and recruits other people to do it. This is what I think happened. Or A went to other people to recruit other people, something like that. So let me have you join in some spiritual warfare with me. My Heavenly Father, Yehovah, B'Shem, Yeshua HaMashiach, I come to you about this person A, who I suspect is causing me problems. And I don't need problems. I'd rather dedicate myself to the scriptures and taking care of myself rather than dealing with problems coming from these deceived morons. So I pray, my Heavenly Father, that punishment on this person A would be as severe as I could get you to do it, okay? And the everyone that lives in the house with A, and everyone that's been helping A, and even 2, 3, 4, 5 parties down the road that have been helping A. I pray for severest punishment I could summon you to do on these people. And this would be serious enough where they leave me alone forever and stop trying to make trouble. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. We'll try that with prayer and see what happens, okay? And please agree with that if you're a believer. Okay, so we got a lot going on with Iran now. I mean, let me try to give you the breakdown as I see what's happening. And it's good. I mean, it's going to be violence, but it's good. Trump seems to have basically postponed the attack on Iran, not gotten away from it. Okay? Now, I put it up on, I think, Telegram, and I'll say it again here. The other day, I said that the Teddy Roosevelt aircraft carrier group popped up in the Red Sea, and that was on social media going around, and I got it verified, and it was fake news. It is not true. The Teddy Roosevelt carrier is somewhere in the Pacific, not here. Oh, I'm sorry that got through. Sorry about that. But we do have 2 aircraft carrier groups that it looks like both are coming to the Middle East. It looks very strong that it's both. The Abraham Lincoln and the Bush aircraft carrier groups. On the Lincoln, they're telling us 6 or 7 days. On the Bush, which I think has to leave Norfolk, I think it left, it's probably 7 to 10 days. But the Bush and the Lincoln might be in position to launch planes to attack Iran a day or 2 or 3 before that. I don't know. Not that they would do it, but it's a possibility, okay? So Trump is pulling 2 carriers in. Where would I think they'll be located? Not in the Red Sea. One probably in between the Persian Gulf and Diego Garcia, somewhere around the Indian Ocean, or maybe the eastern part of the Sea of Oman or something like that. Probably out in the Indian Ocean. And the other one would be up in the Mediterranean, somewhere near Israel. We're getting, now I've never heard Netanyahu say any of this, but they're saying that Netanyahu asked Trump to postpone the Iranian thing because he said we're not up to speed to defend ourselves because there's no American ships to help us with takedowns of incoming missiles. So I don't know what that means because I don't think Trump's going to put any ships in the Persian Gulf or near the Persian Gulf. I think they're going to be hundreds of miles away. So I don't know how they're going to do takedowns. Maybe if he puts some in the Mediterranean, they can shoot and do takedowns over Israel. Maybe. What we have seen in the past is Jordan does takedowns. And I think we're probably on schedule for that to happen again. And the Saudis have done takedowns, but they made it emphatically clear the other day that they're not going to let America use Saudi airspace or Saudi land to do any strikes on Iran because they're afraid of Iran hitting Saudi Arabia, probably through the Houthis. The Houthis are lunatic enough to actually try a land assault on Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a good amount of defenses, but rest assured that they're not Cold War era, but they're probably more like 20, 30 years old stuff. They're not the state of the art, okay? So the Saudis could definitely put up a good fight, but see, these oil-rich Arab states, I'm going to be very blunt, they're morons, okay? Their population are idiots, okay? The leaders of the country are the children and the grandchildren of the ones that were the initial billionaires that got, very wealthy many years ago. And these kids have been raised as idiots. Oh, but they send the kids to Yale and Harvard and, the British institutions, Cambridge and Oxford. Yeah, they go in and they buy a wing or a building for the university, and then the university lets them send one of their kids in. And how does this work? Well, the kid goes there, and the parents probably let the kid buy a house, for $2.5, $3.5, $4.5 million, something like that. Not 50 million, a nice little 7,500 square foot house on 2 or 3 acres, Then the kid will probably not have more than 3 or 4 personal servants. He'll have maids, which he won't be close to. He'll have a valet butler guy, and he'll have cooks. So all his needs get met. He doesn't do anything. And then he has bodyguards, which would probably be, it could be 10 or 12 because they got to go to work 24/7. So it could be several. I mean, it could be 18 or 20, depending what kind of target the guy is or the gal. They don't send gals yet. Okay. So it could be quite a bit. And he's going to probably buy 3 or 4 vehicles, He might buy himself a Lamborghini or something like that, but he's going to have to be followed by 2 SUVs of bodyguards when he goes driving it, and armored cars. And then they'll have, his house will be wired and cameras, and they'll attend class with him. And they'll get the school to tell him who else is in his classes so they could check him out. And he'll have an allowance of, a modest, $100,000, $200,000 a month pocket money, you know, and that's how these morons go to school. And if they don't understand something, they'll hire tutors, and they're going to pass even if they don't go to class. Okay. And these are the morons that are going to come back and run the country and say they're Harvard educated or something like that. Okay? Do you understand what you're dealing with here? Complete morons. All right? Once upon a time in the 70s, I was walking down Union Street in San Francisco at lunchtime, and I was with a guy that worked at the company I worked at. It was a predominantly Jewish-run company. And he very recently got back from fighting in Israel. He was a captain in a commando unit. And he met a guy that was out there, visiting Israel during the wars, and saw him and gave him his card or something and said, "Hey, if you come to Israel, look me up. I'll come to America, look me up. I'll give you a job or something." So the guy took him up on it. But he actually went to America and he got an MBA first and stuff like that. He knew English. He knew a lot of languages. So I got friendly with the guy. So the two of us were walking down the street. I don't know, we were going for lunch or something, or maybe it was the early evening. And he was in the LA office, and he was visiting me, visiting for on business to the company. And there was some Saudi guys on the street, and they saw that we were Jewish right away. And one of them was about 6'2", 6'3", and he started carrying on like he wanted to start a fight, Well, the two of us just walked right by him. I had some weapon on me. I don't remember what it was, but he was probably a child of somebody from the embassy and was a complete jackass. And, I don't start fights or get into fights with people because of what they say. Who cares? It doesn't, even when I was younger, that didn't mean anything to me, what they say. Why do you want to have a fight? So I just kept walking. Now, if the guy started up, I probably would have broke his leg right off. But he didn't start up. He was just sitting there opening his big stinking mouth, He had some other people with him. They outnumbered us, but I'm pretty sure they would have gotten a beating. The problem with that is absolutely nothing's going to happen to you because he's got diplomatic immunity. Nothing's going to happen to him, and then he's going to try to get you locked up. But in San Francisco, the police would never do that. It wouldn't work. If there were witnesses and said that they started with you, which there would have been, nothing would have. Police never would have done it. So, this is the kind of idiot you get, So, these leaders today of countries like Saudi Arabia are soft idiots. Look at how scared this the obese prince. She's obese. The obese prince of Saudi Arabia has gotten with Iran. He makes a public announcement. We're not going to let America use even our airspace or our ground or anything. What a baby, See what I'm saying? He's soft. He's soft. He's a tough guy if he got more bullets than you do, more guns than you do. But if you got as many as him or more, he's a coward. Iran knows that they can take this guy out. What Iran wants is they want to take his country over if they can. What these Arab countries do is they hire foreign workers. Well, most of you don't know this. They hire foreign workers to do what? Well, in their medical systems, they don't want to go to the hospital when they're in a bad way, and some kid that went to medical school in Saudi Arabia is working on them. That scares the daylights out of them. Now, for some kid that went to Saudi medical school and works on the people of Saudi Arabia, that's fine. No, they don't want that. They want high-level doctors coming from other countries to Saudi Arabia. They like to bring in doctors from the UK. They're prone to that. My opinion of UK doctors is pretty good. I've had them in Israel. Pretty good. I wouldn't worry about them. I think Italian doctors are good too. And what others did I meet? French, no problem. Pretty good. So I can remember. I remember meeting people from other countries the way the doctors, I don't think, are too good. I don't have a lot of respect for Russian-trained doctors and Eastern European country doctors. I don't have great respect for that. Doctors from South and Central America, oh no. Mexico doctors can be okay. It depends who the doctor is, Middle Eastern doctors, forget it, like Egypt or Somalia or Jordan. No, you don't want that. They could take care of you if your ailment is basic and simple and they could diagnose it somehow. Then they could take care of you. But if there's anything complicated going on or out of the ordinary, you're probably going to have a bad time with them. All right. So, the people that run these countries are idiots. Now, what country are you? Well, they hire doctors to do their medical. They hire foreigners to make their oil wells, make their refineries, and deal with it. They hire foreigners most of the time to build their buildings and malls and stuff like that. Not all the time. Some of them have their own companies, but when you dig into their own companies, they hire the foreigners and put them in their own companies. So it's always foreigners, okay? You think somebody that goes to Saudi Arabia or Jordan or UAE architecture school is going to build a 110-story building? Come on. And they hire mercenaries in their military. Now, in most of these royal countries where you have big dictators, if you want to get in the military, like if you just want to go in the army and, be a sergeant or a corporal and be an infantryman, artillery, mortar, hey, come in. The water's fine. Welcome, right? But if you want to be a pilot, you're going to have to come with a lot of connections to the royal family, or you're not getting in because they don't trust you. Okay, you're going to have to be in the royal family, essentially, maybe distant a little bit, but they'll have the training pilots and will be mercenaries. They'll be from another country. And if there's a war, they might use these mercenaries to manage the war, okay? To run the Air Force. But they wouldn't be generals. They'd be under the royal family, all right? Look, the royal family are incompetents, okay? They're incompetent. If you want to know where to get the finest linen clothing money could buy, they'll tell you. They'll know. If you want to, where can I get the best shoes? Where can I get the best woman's purse? Where could I get the most expensive phone? And, like a gold iPhone or so. Oh, they'll know. Where can I get the best cars? And they'll know. And the best jets and the best yachts and the best caviar and the best steak. They know all this stuff. But when it comes to the other stuff, they're losers. They're losers. There might be a very small proportion of them that actually went to school and studied, but they would be quite a ways down from the royal family. If they were in the royal family, they would be distant cousins, second cousins, or something like that. You know, so they know that if they want to have a living, they got to make it, and they got to know what they're doing in business, because they have just enough royalty in them to get a job. And if they can demonstrate that they have a skill they acquired at university or in practice in another country, well, then they got the in, because they're in the royal family, distant, but they're still in. It's terrible. They're morons, okay? They really are morons. You got to understand that. They're not smart. I don't think any of them really know how to wage a war. Iran, maybe. But, okay, so, yeah, that's what they do. So, all right. So France, Germany, and the UK have sent fighter jets to 2 locations in the region. Just, I don't know, last 2 days, 3 days. Typhoon fighter jets, Eurofighters, good fighter jets. They put a lot of them into Cyprus, and the rest of them are in Jordan. And the ones that are in Jordan, I think, are joining the United States to attack ISIS in Syria. So they're not just in the region now, they're actually attacking ISIS, which is not an ally of Iran. I just want to bring that out. But it does show you they're not afraid to drop bombs in the Middle East. The buildup in Cyprus of these countries, these 3 countries, is not for Syria. I don't know, it's over 1,000 miles to go from Cyprus to Syria, probably 1,200. They're not staging those planes. There's probably way more of those planes in Cyprus than there are in Syria. Now, they are probably, by their own calculations, out of reach of the Iranian missiles in Cyprus. Okay, that's why they're there. Can Iran sneak up on Cyprus with a ship that actually launches drones and missiles that's disguised as a civilian vessel? Of course. Are they looking for that? Probably. At times when Israel is afraid of being attacked by Iran, it'll move some of their air force over to Cyprus. So they probably think it's a good location. All right. What does that tell us? It tells us they will fight against Iran. Now, they'll have to use refueling tankers coming in from Cyprus, but they could fly in, they could strike, get gas again, but now they'll be out of weapons and go back to Cyprus. Now, I don't know how fast they're going to fly when it's not breaking the sound barrier, but they could fly at 650 miles an hour easily, and then they get back in about 2 hours, something like that. And then what they would probably do is, hang on a minute. I deal with some spiritual warfare. They go back, and then they got to have a safety check. They were in a combat zone. So they have to have a safety check. They have to check all the fluids and hydraulics and all of that, gas it up, and restock it with weapons that were expended. And then maybe the same pilot or another pilot will take off and fly it on another bombing run. And then the same thing happens. And then it could go on 2 runs a day or even 3, depending. I don't know how many planes there are there, and I think they could very well still be bringing planes in. And other countries could very well still be joining them in this attack. There's no reason why there wouldn't be other countries joining in either. Right? Okay. So there could be Italy, for instance. So, but what we know we have now is America, Israel, France, Germany, and the UK. Now, that's a force against Iran that Iran has never experienced. And it could very possibly lead to a full NATO onslaught on Iran, which Iran, the consequences of that for Iran would be so horrible, they don't even know how to imagine that. They would be getting bombed so much, I'd say after the first day at the very latest, there would be, mostly they would be hiding in bunkers. They would still be trying to fire missiles. And they would probably be firing missiles to some extent for 3 days. And then that would stop. Maybe 4 days. It would eventually stop. And then they would be bombed into oblivion. Now, if they attack France, Germany, UK, or America, which are NATO nations, and the Article 5, all for one for all applies, NATO's probably not going to say, well, you got attacked because you were attacking Iran. I don't know if that'll work. These are powerful NATO members. So then if they get Iran, declared to be doing breaking Article 5 of NATO, well, then all the NATO joins in, and that's a lot of countries. It's a lot of planes, a lot of, even if these countries just go ahead and say, well, I could come up with 7 jets or 6 or 12, or, it adds up. You got Romania kicking in, Poland kicking in. All kinds of countries, Italy, all sorts of countries are going to start be joining in on this thing, and Iran is going to horrifically get bombed into oblivion. And that's very consistent with prophecy in Jeremiah 49. Now, let's take it to another level. Iraq. They'll bomb Iraq too because Iraq has every intention of helping Iran in this fight. Okay? So Iraq goes into oblivion, which is consistent with Jeremiah 49 for Elam, which is likely Iraq and Iran. And now we see they're already bombing in Syria, and Syria can very likely be in Elam also, and they're already bombing in Syria. Already happened for days. So it looks like we're looking good for prophecy, but you never know. So what else is going on? Well, we know about the aircraft carriers, and there was 5,600 Marines, and a lot of Delta Force was mixed into the Marines. Now, Delta can come from other special force units, okay? And they're considered more elite. I don't know how many Delta they got, but they probably got 100 or more. And their job would be to now the effectiveness of these fighter jets in Iran has to be discussed because the missile cities are the big problem, and they got hundreds of feet of solid rock, 300 feet of solid rock, and they've got perhaps hundreds of these missile installations, and then they got mobile missile installations. So, guys, any way you slice the cake, you're going to have a big fight with Iran. Trump was trying to have a revolution in Iran to spare the big fight, and it didn't work. So the Iranian attorney general comes out with a statement and says, Trump makes stuff up and says stuff. We didn't tell him we're not going to kill the 800 people. He essentially said this. He says some of them, their trials have progressed already where the indictment is complete and it's going to court. And so he's making out that they intend to take these people to court. And then hang them. And there was a guy that was supposed to hang that they didn't hang yesterday, and they killed him in jail. When they're in the jail, there's no cameras, there's no reporters, there's no spectators. They just kill him. How do they get rid of him? They can burn his body in a furnace. They have a million ways, right? They might have a graveyard in the jail, in the jail area. Who knows? That's an easy thing to do. They could use all kinds of ways to get rid of it. So, So we're in really trying times. I'll be back in a second. And, what we got to talk about is Iran going to wait for a week for Trump's weapons to show up? Or is Iran going to go do a preemptive strike before the big weapons get there? We'll talk about that. Hi, Mom. There's some guy on YouTube made a video telling you the different things your dog will do when a demon comes into your house, and it's telling you the dogs can detect the demon. It's trying to scare people. All right. The revolution has pretty well stopped, okay? The doctors in Iran came out and said there were, in their estimation, at least 16,500 dead, okay? And they estimate 330,000 injured or wounded. Now, that can mean tear gas, I think, with residual effects. It can mean clubbing, beating, I don't know. To me, it sounds excessively high, but you don't know. Iran, at nighttime, is going to something that we would call martial law. Okay? It's military rule is more like their term. So when it gets dark, which is probably around 5 o'clock or something, the military runs the show. They're out in the street, and the people got to stay off the streets. I guess they probably have a couple hours to get home and do their shopping and then get off the streets. And the people are afraid to go out and do protests, although there's reports that some are popping up, but I don't think they're very big or very many. And the people are staying in their houses and chanting, "Kill Khomeini." He's the supreme leader of Iran. So they stay in their house, they open up the window so they can't get shot through the window. They stay on the side or something and kill Khomeini, kill Khomeini. Okay? Now, Trump made some, I think, Twitter or social media thing, it's time to get rid of Khomeini. And I believe there was a post on the State Department website in Iran or something like that about to that effect. Get rid of Khomeini. He didn't say kill Khomeini, change Khomeini, get rid. So he's talking regime change. The Attorney General basically of Iran basically said that these people, the 800 we didn't execute, we're running them through the courts, and then they could very well be executed. So Trump is back fabricating stories again. He betrayed the people of Iran. He was writing checks he couldn't cash. He was promising them things he didn't deliver on. They're so desperate because the Iranians are still hunting them down and arresting them and putting them in jail. Trump says, well, he thanks the Iranians. He gives them an official notice. It says, well, they didn't kill the 800. They didn't hang them. I thank them for that, right? I mean, they're saying it had nothing to do with him. Maybe they did have it scheduled. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Maybe he did scare them, and they want to give them trials now. So I think he did some good. I do. But he thanks a terrorist regime, and they're not letting these people off. Under the law there in Iran, these people are considered to be terrorists and they're going to kill them. These people are going to get killed later down the road, that's all. They're doing sham trials to make it look good. That's all they're doing. The UN's doing nothing about this. Nothing. Satan's chosen people, Jew killers. They're not doing anything about it. Now, the Khomeini is coming out with public announcements. And he's saying that the revolution is over, we won. Did Iran win and suppress the revolution? Yes, 100%. They won. Complete. There is no more revolution now. It could start up again, but what's left is not much. Sitting in your house and opening the windows and screaming, kill Khomeini, is not going to do anything. As I've told you for years, peaceful demonstrations are a waste of time. They don't do anything. They never do. And the satanic governments love it when you do it because it lets the steam off and accomplishes absolutely nothing. It's a waste of time. People that tell you that, peaceful demonstrations is a good idea are generally Satan bots or the deceived. They're not a good idea. They're a waste of time. When you start even burning cars, breaking into stores, I'm not advocating you do any of this, but I'm saying when those things start happening, then you start getting effects. You get results. The ultimate result is you overthrow the government and get a good government in, but you're always going to get a Satan bot government. If you try to install a government in some country that's not a Satan bot, well, Satan will just tell the other countries nearby to come in and save the day for the Satan bot. That's all it'll happen. If you're going to win, you're going to have to fight in the spirit, or you ain't going to win. If you fight in the spirit, you win, they lose. If you fight in the flesh, they win and you lose. Are we spiritual warfare protesters? Yeah. We protest Satan trying to run the countries of the world, and we toss him. And remember, Satan's only defense against us is a lousy one, and that's to try to conceal any signs of our spiritual warfare and make us think it doesn't work. They're so scared right now. Look how scared they are. They're afraid to go to war. And one of their greatest loves in the world, the Satan bot, is death. That's their great joy, is death of anything. Poor animals, insects, people, anything. They're just savage. They love killing even helpless animals. I can't even handle that. Now, because the dogs in the house are inside a lot with the rain, one of the dogs, the mommy's getting in trouble with my wife, and she's getting scolded. And the other one's in the room with me. I got this little electrode heater I use to keep the room warm when it's cold, and she hears my wife scolding the other dog, and she jumps right up and walks down there to watch it. Chief used to do it. He used to sit in the doorway here where there's a wooden gate. You might be able to see it behind me. And he used to see if the other dogs, he used to like to sit because the gate was slats. It was like a child gate, and he would sit in his room here, his kingdom, with Yaffa, their fiefdom. And Yaffa didn't care about this, but he used to go there and he would look through the slats because you could just about stick his head through them. And he'd watch, and when the dogs got in trouble, he loved it. The other dog, he would watch, and he would stay quiet and do nothing. Then if I was there, he had a way of giving me an eye expression. He'd look at me with his eyes, but he wouldn't lock his eyes on me because that's offensive in dogland. But he used to give me this look like, oh boy, they're in trouble now. He used to just love it, And he would try to stay out of trouble as much as he could, The problem with him is the peeing and the pooping. That was the problem with him. It could have been old age. I don't know. It could have been marking. Hard to say. Okay, so the Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, came out and said the economy is a bad problem in Iran. Now, let me open your eyes to what this all means. Okay? What does it mean? It means that Ayatollah Khomeini knows that his country is in dire straits and he has to fix the economy. Can he fix the economy with Trump's sanctions and the snapback sanctions from the whole UN on Iran? It'd be awful difficult. Okay, now Iran still sells oil to China, and China still buys it. And, while Trump will interdict a tanker boat from other countries, he's not going to interdict Chinese tanker boats. He hasn't done that yet. He doesn't want to rock the boat with China. He'd rather let the oil get sold. So what does he do? I mean, how does this end? Well, it ends when Iran ends, not when China ends, according to Trump. Well, he didn't say that, but, So what could Iran do to get rid of the sanctions and still maintain their posture as a psychotic, violent, terrorist country, catering to Satan's demands and wishes? What could they do? Well, if they do a preemptive strike, and believe me, they're thinking about it, Israel is on very, very high alert, watching everything we can watch in Iran and with Hezbollah and with the Houthis and in Iraq, watching everything because they could go preemptive strike. Why? What's the advantage? Well, they can cause a tremendous amount of damage in 6 or 7 days before the aircraft carrier groups get here. But Trump has aircraft here. He will bomb them. Well, their missile cities may keep functioning through the bombing, as well as the mobile missile launchers can keep functioning. But the European Union bombers, Israel bombers, American bombers may not be up to speed to do a great job on penetrating past 200 to 300 feet of rock in mountainous Ukraine to get into their big missile cities. But what could we do? We could hit any above ground or moderately underground military base Iran has in the country. Okay, we could hit any and all electric generators they have in the country. We could hit any and all oil refineries and oil storage facilities Iran has in the country. We can hit any port or pier that Iran has in the country. We could hit any train terminals, train tracks that Iran has in the country. Okay? We could hit control communications towers. Radar, of course, would be right at the front of the list, the top of the list to start with. And then we can go on and wipe out Iran's make-believe navy. Now, Iran can keep launching missiles causing damage in other countries. But at the same time, Iran is being decimated. And if the only thing surviving is their missile cities, listen to this. If the only thing left operating and intact is their missile cities, that they don't have a country. You can't administer your country with missile cities. So now, in addition to the targets I quoted, you could hit Iran government buildings where their courts are. You could hit their prisons. Well, you might kill the people though. You could hit their tax people, their intelligence people, their military command centers, all of this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Hit the police, and then the protesters could take it over. And you don't have to come in on the ground. The protesters do it. But, the IRGC and the other 500,000 soldiers in Iran are going to mow down the protesters if Khomeini could keep them in the fight. So, yes, Khomeini could do a preemptive strike, and then Iran's going to take a lot of damages, hundreds of billions of dollars of damages without it stopping. And it would lead to the protesters overthrowing Khomeini. But he does get to bust up Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the American military bases, and maybe some other stuff. There's UK military bases that they could get in the Middle East. Okay, so that's what would happen. Okay. How can Iran do this in a more sensible way? What is Iran's real goal? Does it want to go out there and destroy NATO and Israel and America? No. It's afraid of doing that. It doesn't want to do that. It has to pay a bad price. It does. It's nice they go around opening up their big mouths about Israel and America, but going out and taking them on and tangling them in the past has consistently, in the recent past, has consistently proved to be very punishing for them. So what are these derelicts? What's their move here? Well, in my humble opinion, their move is to close the Straits of Hormuz, the choke point in the Persian Gulf, that they are right there. They've got naval mines they can use. They've got the go-fast boats. They can hit the Straits of Hormuz with shore-based missiles. It's not that difficult. They can use shore-based anti-ship missiles and all kinds of stuff, okay? Just cut the flow off. Say only approved boats are going to pass, and they just cut it down. So Iran could cut 20% of the oil supply in the world. And if oil's like $65 a barrel now and 20% gets cut, you think it'll go to 130? My opinion is the dead bare bones minimum 130. What about 200? Yeah, it could go that high too. Because they're going to worry, because the Houthis are going to come out and say, we're cutting off movement of ships through the Red Sea and that area underneath Yemen and Saudi Arabia with a block or two. So they can probably knock out 10 or 12% of oil or add to the damage. Okay. They could add to the damage. Is that what I think is the safest move for Iran to get well? Iran can't get well with the sanctions. It's impossible. Okay, so the people don't go out in the streets and cause revolutions anymore. Great. But the economy's so bad, they're going to still try something. So that's where I think we're headed. A closure of the Persian Gulf. What would happen? What would it look like? Well, they tell ships that they can't pass, or Iran says you owe us a toll, and they might do that to collect revenue. Tell Kuwait and all that other, UAE, you got to pay us 10% to leave, and 10% of an oil tanker could be millions of dollars, many millions. So they could pick up revenue that way. Because if they just sit there and shut the oil off, now they're playing a game of chicken. What's chicken? Two kids in the 50s would get in their hot rods, go out to an old closed highway or an old airstrip or something like that, and they would, even a drag strip, and they would drive their cars at each other as fast as they can to see who swerves away first. Now, what's this game really played? Not very much, but it was, unfortunately. And what would these idiots do? Well, usually they'd swerve away before they got close to an accident. I imagine every now and then you'd come across some kid that hated life and hated his parents and just would, you know, had a death wish and just wouldn't swerve away, you know. So I think that's where we're headed because Iran could bail themselves out. If they just close the Persian Gulf and they say, we got you, Trump. Now you're not getting any oil. And then Trump's going to sit there and say, yeah, but you jackasses aren't getting any money either. So what my best move is now, Trump will say, is put a few ships there and go through the motions and wait you out because you'll starve to death. Remember, the ships to get out of the Persian Gulf could be interdicted by Trump after, he could go 500 miles or 1,000 miles away from Iran and interdict them. He could go 3,000 miles and interdict them. But I don't think he has to do anything. I think all he has to do is wait it out with Iran, and they're not going to get their money if they close the straits of Hormuz and that area. What will happen is the Iranian ships, the Iran shipments of oil to China will be a lot easier to recognize because they're not going to be interdicted by Iran. It'd be pretty easy to spot them. And then, Trump just goes 100% taxes on China. He doesn't have to shoot a bullet. Trump's game is China's not going to go to war with America over the price of oil. It'll just pay more for oil elsewhere. Well, that's a nice assumption, Trump, but what if you're wrong? Well, then we got Jeremiah 50:51, America goes down. Well, we know America is going to go down. And it appears that due to the cruelty being done in America, it's being done by Muslims, warriors, evil terrorist types. And so they're involved, but we got other countries that are involved too. So Iran's best bet right now is not starving to death. It's not doing a preemptive strike. If they do a preemptive strike, they got to get themselves diluted to the point where they think they could win. Now, with France, Germany, and the UK in on it, which we assume they're too far away for Iranian missiles, Iran's got a real problem because Iran can't hit them, but they could come bomb Iran anytime they want to, as much as they want to. Will this happen before the aircraft carriers get here or after? I think the aircraft carriers are irrelevant if Iran closes the Persian Gulf, because Trump's not going to attack Iran. Okay, let's play that out. Okay, Iran shuts the Persian Gulf. You want to move your oil out, oil-producing countries, you got to pay us 10%, 15%, whatever they want. So they're making money again for nothing, right? So they could keep paying the terrorists and build the country up, buy more missiles, blah, 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 right? Okay. So what are the other countries going to do? Well, at first, they're not going to pay. And then they're going to talk to Trump and then have meetings amongst themselves. And I don't know what they'll do. Maybe they'll just never pay. Then it didn't work. And Iran's headed down the tubes. And Trump just goes back to promoting the protesters, maybe some token strikes. But he's got to be careful because these token strikes are likely going to get retaliation from Iran. And against who? Well, we've been told Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the American bases in the region, and Israel. So there needs to be, that's a lot of damage. And if you do that, you don't have to close the Persian Gulf. There's nobody left to use it. You blow their refineries up. They don't have any defenses to speak of. You blow their refineries up. Jordan has some defenses, but eventually Iran will prevail. Iraq, which is very close, will be firing on these countries as well, as will the Houthis in Yemen. So the damage that they affect will be monumental. So that's another way of accomplishing it. Nobody's getting oil out. There is no more oil. So now if that oil is gone and America's putting sanctions and doesn't want to let Iran sell oil to India and China, who are now going to be sucking wind for oil because the price of oil is now huge, $200-300 a barrel or more even, what are they going to do? Well, you know, Iran is going to go broke if they got to pay market price. I mean, China's going to go broke, so will India. I mean, it'll mess them up badly. So I don't know how that'll turn out, but they might decide it's time to kill America and get rid of America. That might be it. China will see that level of punishment as so great and so monumental that they're going to say, we're better off rebuilding after a war. Now let's just get rid of America. See, when America goes, everything changes. First of all, then we know we're coming right to redemption. Oh boy. Listen, a lot of you are busted up. I'm busted up. A lot of us are busted up. But you see, during this 2,000-year period of Hosea 6:1 and 2, we get a double punishment. Yeah. That's why we're getting a double reward after it's over. But we're in a double punishment, so it's really bad. God says he'll even be like an enemy to us. Now, it's not ended yet. It's changed, but it hasn't completely ended yet. But we're running around with the keys to the kingdom and using them, aren't we? Well, that's different. Hal Lindsey with his pre-trib rapture garbage in 67 and 73 and all that wasn't running around telling the people about the keys to the kingdom and how to use them or anything like that. He wasn't going to do that. He might know about the keys to the kingdom, but he certainly couldn't use them. The Satan bot. The Satan bots used to occupy, the Satanists used to occupy movie theaters. I had, this is before I knew my wife, way, way, way before. I had a girlfriend in Berkeley, and I was in San Francisco, and I wasn't walking, I didn't know the Lord yet. So I was with her, and then we got along really well. And Berkeley has a bunch of movie theaters. So she used to always say, "Oh, I'm a cheap date. Just take me out for Chinese food and a movie or something like that," So we used to do more elaborate things like go to ski resorts. But I went and we went out and I don't know where we ate, and she used to handle that stuff. She knew that part of I knew San Francisco inside out. She knew we call it the East Bay. She knew that stuff very, very well. Like one time she took me to Calistoga Springs or something. Calistoga was a mineral, sparkling, natural, sparkling water that they sold in California in small bottles. It was rather cheap back then, like Perrier competitor. And some people liked it better than Perrier, not me. But they had their own spring with a pool and places like that you could go. And it wasn't that far away from Berkeley. I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour or something like that. So she told me about that one day, and I went up there and we went in the pool where there was a lot of ill people, that had bone problems and different problems. And we went in the water, and do I think the water did anything really beneficial for me? No. No, we got a natural spring like that here in Tiberias that's actually in the Bible. It goes back to the days of Yeshua, even before. And I've gone to the water there. There's different ways you could do it. There's a modern facility with the same water and the old, and I've gone there a few times. And has it done anything for me? No. No. It feels good, but no, I gave up on it. Okay, so uh, we went to the movies, and it was one of those movie theaters where they had about 5 or 6 different theaters in one network, or 3 or 4. So we finished the movie, and then there was a Hal Lindsey movie playing, probably his second or something. The dates on this, it could have been his third. The date on this would have been around 1978, 78, 79, something like that. Something like that. And we left the one theater. I have no idea what we saw. We left that theater. I can't remember. And then we just popped in. Other people were doing it. Popped into the Hal Lindsey thing to watch his prophecy movie. And I wasn't a believer. When I went in there, I felt and was very well aware of the cold, clammy presence in the theater. And I didn't know what to make of it except this. Some years before that, when I was in New York, I dated a girl that was a yoga instructor, and she was really into yoga. And I was into martial arts, and I was trying to keep an open mind. I didn't know the Lord to the yoga thing. So she says to me, "Oh, you got to come one day, see this, big shot yoga doga guy. He's going to be teaching, doing a class, and, come, you could see it." She was trying to see if she could get me into the yoga stuff, right? So I went over there, and it's in some big room, reminded me of maybe a martial arts studio in a way. And you had to take your shoes off, which reminded me of martial arts, but you could keep your socks on, which you can't in martial arts. Uh, if you ever want to study real fighting and they tell you to take your shoes off, go someplace else. That's a joke. The only time that's relevant is if, let's say, you happen to work as a lifeguard on a beach and don't wear your shoes. Well, that would be good for you. But if it's anybody else that happens to generally wear shoes and has a 99% chance of having their shoes on when they need to use the martial arts in real world situation, it's actually going against you. It's a stupid way of learning martial arts. It's idiotic, okay? And you're always going to fight better with your shoes on than you are without your shoes on. And your injuries are going to be much less, okay? So, um, there in this yoga studio was this cold, clammy, um, damp feeling that there's some kind of presence there. Now, I didn't understand demons and stuff like that. It just registered. So when I saw that in the movie, I think it registered back to that yoga studio, but I didn't quite get it, you know. Uh, One time I was in the shower around 78, 79, and the Lord spoke to me, and I didn't understand what was going on. And He said to me, "This place is a testing place," meaning the earth, because I was thinking about things philosophically. But that was probably 2 or 3 years before I got saved. But I remember He said that, but I didn't know what was going on. All right, so when was the next time I came into this cold, damp feeling thing? Well, it was in Israel in the early 90s. I went to the area behind that, what they call the Eastern Gate, which isn't the Eastern Gate. Uh, Someone showed me how to get in, and we got in, and we were behind the gate where the Muslim area is. And I went into a section there, and I felt that cold, clammy feeling in there, Dome of the Rock area, but in a very Muslim part of it. And now I knew what it was. I'd been a believer for quite a few years. These are demons here. And then the whole thing came back to me. So why am I teaching you this? Well, during the movie, they were in the movie theater. That's how they were promoting this Hal Lindsey stuff. They were in the theater, and the people were probably in sin in the theater because Hal Lindsey was espousing doctrines that were wrong, and they're sitting there watching it or listening to it. So I believe, not in every case, but in some cases, it might be that the person was giving place to the devil, and then they went to work on him. If you were sitting there watching it and saying, "Oh, Lindsay's wrong here and here and here, he's a crook," and you were trying to learn how to teach other people, well, then maybe they wouldn't get over on you. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. But you shouldn't be wasting your money listening to people like that. So I think you probably shouldn't go to a movie like that, you know. But anyway, now the movies have fallen dead pretty much from what people tell me. Very few people go to the movies anymore. They just pay to get it on their in their home. And I guess what you would do is have a 60 to 90-inch television, you know, and have some wraparound sound and just sit at home and watch it on a big screen. And you don't have to go to the theater. Well, to me, it was always, I haven't been to a movie in, you know, probably 12 years or 13 years or something like that. I don't know how many years. It's been years since I went to a movie. And, but to me, it was a traditional thing. You know, you went to the theater and it was fun and you got a good seat and you waited for the movie and you could get popcorn and candy and soda or whatever you liked and you could watch the movie. And I thought it was fun doing that. I liked it. Okay. And the screens in the movie theater are way, way, way better than anything you get in your house, unless you got your own home theater. And if you have your own home theater, most of the people will have a screen that's perhaps 10 feet by 4 or 5 feet, you know, uh, which is still pretty big, you know. Some people that are rich will get a screen that's like 25 by 12 or something, or 10, you know. They get big. That's probably quite expensive. And I don't know what kind of projector you need. And then they'll have, you know, 15 speakers put in around there where you'll have a big bass box, you know, to rattle everything, you know. And, you know, they could, you know, if you don't mind dropping $400,000 or $500,000 on your home theater, you get a heck of a home theater, you know. Most people probably just go buy a big flat screen TV, which is what, $2,000 to $3,000, and then get another $1,200 to $1,500 sound system, and they live with that, and it's probably pretty darn good, you know. Do they do 3D? I have no idea. I don't think they can get 3D, but I don't know. In other parts of the world, in Europe and Central South America, Asia, you could go to movie theaters that are more expensive, and the way they work is you get something more like a reclining couch. Okay. So you and your wife could sit there together next to each other, and your feet are up. You can take your shoes off, and you have a table, and you could order food. So they'll bring you your popcorn and your sodas, or in a lot of these countries, they'll bring you a martini and a beer. And you could get hot food in these places. You could get French fries. You could get burgers, sushi. Some of these places have. No, the food is usually going to be very far from gourmet. It'll be acceptable at best, typically, unless you hit a good one. But so that's a little bit more of a different experience. The theater is way, way emptier. But the screens are not as big as they are in a big screen either. nowhere near. So it's always a push pull, which is the best. Now there are places in America where you actually have like a restaurant and you have um, there's a big screen. So usually you're sitting up high and you're sitting at a little table where you're looking down from a balcony at the screen, and you can get yourself a whole meal. Like, have yourself a salad, a soup, a main course with vegetables, and then a dessert and coffee, and you could eat your whole meal and watch the whole movie. I think that's too distracting. I don't think I would like that. I've never done it. The other thing you have in other countries, which I don't think exists in Israel, though it might, and I've never gone to the movies in Israel in a million years. Uh, and you can get this in Asia and I think Europe, and I don't believe America has it. You sit in a very funny seat, um, and this seat moves and it shakes you and goes dips to the side, up and down and stuff, right? Um, the theater is rather empty with the seats because these things take up a lot of room. So you got maybe half the seats or a third of the seats, probably 40% or something like that. And you have speakers in your headrest right around your ears, so you get a very good speaker, presentation of sound, and it makes sensations. So if you're in a car going over cobblestones, the seat shakes you. Um, from the seat in front of you, it'll blow smoke out at you. It will blow mist of water out at you. Um, you can make it tilt and it gives you a sensation of falling, but not that good. It doesn't go up and then come down. It won't go like that, but it tilts back and like that and to the sides. So if you're in a car and you're going around a mountain, the seat will tilt and you go like that, or you go like that. Does it enhance the movie? Yeah, yeah. Is it that great? I don't think it ever really got that popular. It's fun. It makes the movies more fun, but uh I don't know how good they got it. Maybe they got it better now. Disney has something like that years ago. The last time I was at Disney was a million years ago. But they had something where you went and you sat, what was it? It was a seat, but more like a bench of seats or something. You weren't next to the other person. There was two together, and you had a lot of people took their shoes off. They suggested it, and if you had any bags you were carrying or something like that, you put them on the floor in front of your seat. And then when they turned the movie on, it was like a really big, huge screen. I mean, this thing must have been, 60, 80 feet high and 120 feet across. It was huge. I don't know, even bigger. It was massive, like a wall of a big building. Huge screen. Um, Fantastic resolution and kind of not a 3D. You didn't really wear glasses or anything, but it was you thought you were in there, and it was the one I saw was hot air ballooning. And the thing you were sitting on, was like a hot air balloon. Well, anyway, as soon as the movie started, you went up. How high? Not much, 12 feet, maybe 15 feet. And it was just enough that they would tilt you when you were tilting in the screen, and they could drop you and they could raise you. And it really worked much better than anything in the movie theaters. But it was an awkward thing. You weren't on the ground, you were up in the air, and it lasted maybe 10 minutes, 8 minutes or something. Not maybe five, I don't know. It was a while. But it wasn't practical for a movie theater. You wouldn't want to be up there for an hour and a half. So people have resigned themselves, what I'm told, for the most part, of COVID is what did it, of watching movies at home. You know, so the prices they get are, um, I guess. Let me think. I gotta convert currency. Uh, I think to get a first run movie and play it in the house is about $20. But I think that you could have friends over. You could have 6 or 8 people watch it for the same $20. That's a one-time view. That's not buying it. That's just renting it for one view. Where the tickets in the movies could be, 12, 15, $20, depending where you are. So it's actually more economical to watch it that way. The point of that is they can't do spiritual warfare in the movie anymore. Well, they can, but not that many people go to the movies. So how are they going to do the spiritual warfare in your house? Well, they probably put spells and enchantments on the actual movie itself, which you could break. But I don't. I mean, why would anybody? I mean, years ago, I bought. We're going back years. I bought a few cheap movies to watch many years ago, and I mean, they were like $3, $5 or something. And you still have them. You can watch them as long as you're in, like Netflix, well, Netflix couldn't be it. It would have been one of the other ones or something like that. Most of the ones are just trying to sell you pay movies. You know, it's horrible what they did. If you go back around 2000, even up to about 2015, maybe, YouTube had all the movies. They had like all the James Bond movies, all the Star Treks, all the um, Star Wars, all that stuff was for free. I mean, you could download it and have it on your computer. You were able to download all around the world and all different kinds of sites. And what they tried doing is the movie stars were wanting to get more money on it, so they were paying. I guess somebody was paying private detectives to uh, find these movies and report them to YouTube and compel YouTube to close their account. And it kept going on and on like that. And then they started selling these movies to people to watch rental. And then YouTube got in on it. And everybody else got in on it. So the actors get some royalty money off of it. But I understand it's very low. The actors today are basically the ones that were very, very popular, like before COVID, are predominantly out of the business. You rarely ever see them pop up again. You know, they're they're finished now. I don't think the movie theaters pay them. The movie makers want to pay anybody 25 or $35 million plus a cut of the take to make a movie. So people like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise that got so much money and popularity, they promote their own movies. They get with a movie house and they like do their own movie, and then they get a big piece of the action. But most of the ones that were making movies before, there very few of them are out there making movies anymore. There's some that do, but most of the movies got people you never heard of before because they're working cheap. They're not. trying to get 3 million or 5 million, they'll make a movie for $250,000 or something because they're broke. Or they might want $500,000, but they're certainly not getting 25 million like a big star would get. So even if they got $1 million, it's still big savings to the studios. Then they do a lot of TV serials now, which there are people that have been in these serials for years, and they probably get a tremendous amount of money an episode. I would think the stars of these shows are getting at least $500,000 an episode, if not $1 million. So if they do 20 episodes a year at $500,000, that's good money. If they get $1 million an episode, well, then they made even more money. And then they get reruns. They get they get money for being in the rerun, and. But once it gets on to, Amazon Prime or something like that, I think every time their TV show airs, they get, like a fifth of a penny or something. It might be 100th of a penny. They don't get money. They get money, but they don't make a lot. The views go up into the millions and millions of this because tons of people watch these shows. The so-called rerun on Amazon Prime, but Netflix has to pay these people too. So if Amazon Prime is selling the TV show, then they can pay the people that are in the TV show a reasonable amount of money. They're selling episodes for $2 or $3 an episode. Well, they can pay the people, the stars probably 5 or 10 cents a view every time they sell it, which could add up if he's doing millions of sales. So they could still make money. But I liked it better when you could just go around to download sites and download whatever you wanted to watch, and you had no, you didn't have to pay anything, and you didn't have to, subscribe to a service. You just put it in your computer. And you had to have a player, I think, which you could download for free. So you didn't have a problem with that, Hold on a sec. It's nothing. It's a courier. Wait a minute. Gotta check this for a second. No, that's nothing. Or is it? Hold on. Just a second. Yeah, some sale. Okay. Do I think Iran's going to do something? Yeah, they got to do something. If they just sit there, they're going to fold and get overthrown. And they know Trump is going to keep trying to overthrow them, along with Israel, along with the UK and Germany and France. Germany, France, and the UK were the three countries that pushed the snapback sanctions on Iran. So they're after Iran. And they're in NATO. So if they attack Iran and Iran manages to attack their home country, somehow, some way, some shape or form, they would activate Article 5, and then NATO would go after Iran along with America and Israel, and then what would be left of Iran? Nothing. It would be that people would have to evacuate it. They just see you start with Iran, and then Iran is using the missile cities, and they're harming people all over the place. So you have to keep attacking and attacking and attacking until the missile cities stop. However, you can't get through 200 to 300 feet of rock in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of missile cities. There might be over 100, and they're firing missiles all the time. And then drones are coming out like crazy. So what do? You attack what you can attack. What can you attack? Well, you could start with electric generators, right? Now you got a blackout on the military bases and everything, right? To some extent, they'll have generators, and then you bomb the generators so they don't have power. So the airports are shut, not that they have an air force, and then you blow the airports up. Then you blow their Navy boats up. Okay? Then you blow up their trains, their overpasses, their bridges, their ferry boats, if they got them. You blow up their ports and their piers and the airports. They got no anything going in and out of the country. You blow up the military bases, and they're still fighting. Well, then you blow up their government buildings. And you keep blowing stuff up because you can't get down 200 or 300 feet in rock effectively enough to stop hundreds of them. So you just blow all the other stuff up. And eventually you'll realize the missiles stop because there's no more government anymore, and it's over. But then there's likely no more country anymore either. And that's the way prophecy goes. And it could very likely apply to Iraq. I believe it will. And even parts of Syria, maybe Syria. Probably parts of Syria. Where are they fighting in Syria now? They're bombing all over the place, ISIS. The Kurds are fighting against the government in northeastern Syria where the oil is. The Kurds are the good guys, according to America. America likes the Kurds. So this is a real mess, and Iran might try a preemptive strike to get rid of everybody bothering her, but they're not going to like it. But it could happen. They're crazy. It could happen. And they might try closing the Persian Gulf. One fear they might have is if they try closing the Persian Gulf and they fail at it, what happens to them? Well, that's $1 million question. I don't know what happens to them. I mean, we'd have to watch that to see what happens. It could be catastrophic or not so catastrophic. Trump saying he wants to make a diplomatic solution with them is Trump wants to buy time to bring his arsenal into the area. Trump might at this point be very concerned about deterring Iran from retaliation against his strikes or preemptive strike. Now, the time is right for a preemptive strike, but it doesn't make sense for Iran because they could maybe punish Israel and give a lot of damage to Israel, but Israel's still going to get them. they're not going to stop America. They might hurt American bases in the region, but America is still going to get to them. France, Germany, and the UK are still going to get to them. It doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense to me that they could do is shut the Persian Gulf at the Straits of Hormuz and then tell everybody they're ready for negotiation. And then they'll tell people, we'll be good boys and girls. Just give us sanction relief and we'll open the Persian Gulf up immediately and that's it. But we want the sanctions gone. And I don't know where that leaves him. I don't think Trump's going to give up the sanctions. All right, let's see what else I missed in the news. Now, this is what you might say concerning tens of thousands of Cubans demonstrated Friday, today's Sunday, outside the U.S. Embassy in Havana to protest the killing of 32 Cuban officers in Venezuela during the snatch and grab of Erdogan. So that is probably a very minor concern to the Americans. They crowded into open air Jose Mani something imperialist plaza and anti-imperialist plaza across from the embassy at a rally organized by the Cuban government, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so whoopee-doo. That's not going to bother Trump. Yeah. The United States has taken two amphibious ships, the ones that we saw in Venezuela a few weeks ago, the USS Iwo Jima and the USS San Antonio. They moved them a relocation into waters north of Cuba. I don't know how far away from Cuba, but I expect probably not that far. So these are landing ships with Expeditionary Force Marines now threatening Cuba, as in to land and do a regime change or occupy or something. Now they got Gitmo, which is attached to Cuba. I don't know why they couldn't put a ton of troops on Gitmo and then just drive in. Or maybe they want to do both. I don't know. America also issued a NOTAM to airmen, and this NOTAM was covering Mexico, Central, and South America, and it goes on for till March or something, quite a long one. And it's not one of those, hey, you can't fly here. It's like, be very careful if you're flying here because of military exercises. So I think more than anything, it means check before you fly over here to make sure nothing's going on. So Trump's looking to spook Cuba. I don't know. It said that um, Cuba was going to go bust because they were getting their money um, from Cuba was getting their money from Venezuela, and Trump was saying that's been cut off. So he's getting aggressive. I don't know. Maybe he thinks it's time for a revolution in Cuba and he could get one going, or I don't know what he's trying to do. I really don't know. He's obviously trying to get rid of whoever it is running Cuba. Castro and Castro's brother are long gone out of that picture, so I don't know what's going on with that. Trump's probably got some sort of a plan. I don't know what. It doesn't sound like he's looking for a revolution because he's got the amphibious landing ships there. So that makes, that sounds like an attack. Trump doesn't always make sense, does he? No. One of the Cuban officials, upon the arrival of the ship, the Cuban what was the Cuban called? Cuban Army Corps Chief of Staff. This is a big shot in the Army. Joaquin Quintus Perez dropped a defiant warning to the United States from Havana. They would have to kidnap millions or wipe us off the map. Even then, our ghosts would haunt them forever. That's a rather stupid comment. But it does show resistance. I mean, it's not a real intelligent comment, but it does show us resistance. So that NOTAM in Central South America is more of a light warning than a serious NOTAM. There's something else here. It seems to me that Mexico, Colombia, Central America, and Ecuador is likely due to drug trafficking. It seems to me, this isn't me, this is the writer, that it seems to me the Panama NOTAM has to do with the U.S. maybe taking back possession of the Panama Canal. No, they won't take back possession of the Panama Canal as long as the Panama government listens to them, which it seems they will, because they don't want to be bothered with the administration and all of that. Panama is just the hole you throw money into. If America takes it back, they just got to feed money into it. They don't want it. It might be able to stand on its own feet now, But if America went in and did it the American way, they would be running at a deficit. It's not worth it for the canal. It's better to just have them run it. All right. So it looks like we're going to have a few days of maybe something will blow up, but it would have to be Iran starting it. If America's going to start something, it would be after the aircraft carrier groups are here. And I don't really know how enthusiastic America is going to be about starting something, because they're going to go back to the revolution model. They might get Khomeini out of the country by killing him or kidnapping him if they can, and then pushing the activities of the military. All right. So the NOTAMs do affect Mexico. I don't know what Trump's going to do in Mexico. If he's going to do anything in Mexico, I don't know. NOTAMs is something that's done a lot these days. It doesn't have a great deal of meaning. And what it really is, more than anything, this type of NOTAM is just telling the people, hey, if you're flying a commercial plane or any kind of plane around here, be careful. Make sure you know what's going on. That's all it really is. It could be a warning. It could be real. It could be both. Four people in Israel were hospitalized as their homes, their cars were torched in settler attacks on West Bank Bedouin encampment. So the people in Israel are attacking the Arabs living in Israel, kind of returning the favor to them. We still get infiltrations into Israel where they come in to kill people, one by himself, and we still catch them most of the time. So the war cabinet is meeting now in Jerusalem. Netanyahu called the meeting of the war cabinet. Now, we don't know exactly what it's talking about. It could be talking about multiple topics. Could be talking about what we're going to do in Gaza. Could be talking about what we're going to do with Hezbollah. What's going on in Syria? What about Iraq? What about Iran? What about the Houthis? All the above. So we don't know what is happening. It's because so many wars and potential wars, and they may or may not tell us after the meeting. I don't know. The one thing I believe they're concerned about is Trump forming a board of peace for phase 2 in Gaza, and there's some people on this board of peace like Qatar and Turkey that Israel formerly didn't like, but now we're learning that Netanyahu apparently invited Erdogan to join the board, which could have been a put on by Trump or something like that. I don't know. And Qatar is on it because Qatar and Turkey are against Israel. Trump is trying to put Argentina on there, which is very pro-Israel. Kushner and some other people that are friendly to Israel are on there. So Netanyahu wants to have a discussion with his war cabinet about that. I don't know. I think he's got more problems with Iran and Iraq and Hezbollah and Syria and these kind of problems. The Ynet newspaper says that the meeting this morning, which has probably already started, is going to discuss Iran and the possibility Trump will order a strike on regime targets, and we might have to strike Iraq, and he might want us to go in the fight and all kinds of things. So I think that's really what their emphasis is going to be. Making plans, seeing what they want to reject, or object to with Trump and so forth. Just because the aircraft carriers are not here doesn't mean Trump can't wake up one day and say, I was wrong. I should have done it differently. All right, so now the next story we're hearing is that Netanyahu went to Trump and said Israel's not fully prepared to defend against Iran's retaliation, so they need more time. And you can't take that stuff. I've never yet heard Netanyahu come out directly and tell us any of this stuff. He never did it. So I don't know how much of it is real or not. I really don't know. Why didn't Netanyahu say it? I didn't get that. So they said they wanted a more significant military presence in the region. The reports we're getting also say that about Wednesday last week, two of Trump's advisors really felt Trump was going to hit the go green light and attack Iran, but he didn't. What bothers me about Trump is why he's so weak, you know? I mean, he's really, really weak. Um, he's scared, you know? He lets he lets Hamas get away with not disarming. So Hezbollah says we'll never disarm. Why? Because it worked for Hamas. Why shouldn't they use the same thing? See how bad Trump is? So then we got trouble with Hezbollah. We just got the last three. No, there's still more. We got three more F-35s from America. I think they just came. And that brought us up to 48. And we ordered 50, so we're going to get two more. It takes Israel about a month to redo these. We retrofit them, and it takes about a month. I'm going to take a break for a minute. It does look more and more like we're really going to see two aircraft carrier groups in the Middle East in about a week. They might be in theater in 4 or 5 days or 6 days or something where they could start fighting. I don't know yet. I've never seen anything with Iran where you see France, the UK, and Germany moving fighter jets. And they're not just moving fighter jets, they've already started bombing in Syria. That sends a pretty serious message. But you're dealing with psychotics in Iran. A psychotic is somebody that believes in something that's not real. Right? They hallucinate. But you don't have to be hallucinatory to be a psychotic. You have to have a break from reality. All Satan bots have a break from reality. They think they're dealing with something they're not. They don't get it. I don't know how big this buildup of fighter jets is, but I hear it's pretty good size. So they're saying that Trump's attack on Iran has been postponed, not canceled. So it appears that the Abraham Lincoln's going to kind of come in maybe from the Indian Ocean, to Diego Garcia area or something. And the Bush aircraft carrier, I believe, came from Norfolk, Virginia, so it's crossing the Atlantic. And then it may go through the Red Sea, come out under Saudi Arabia and meet the other ship, but I think it's going to stay in the Mediterranean. I don't think it's going to do that. U.S. C-17 cargo planes are headed to Diego Garcia at the same time as we see these European NATO planes moving around, and they're probably bringing bombs and weapons and supplies to Diego Garcia. The base is mostly used to store weapons and equipment before big operations. 3 flights from Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany and 1 from the U.S. show a coordinated military movement, not regular exercises. So this is extraordinary. It's not regular. There could be another strike group, an aircraft carrier strike group coming. There also could be a buildup of destroyers and missile cruisers. I don't think they're going to bring landing ships. I think it's not feasible to land in Iran. It might take 2 or 3 years. Like getting Europe back from Hitler or something. It's probably easier to just drop bombs, and much, much faster. But you never know. You could see a third aircraft carrier group here. And that would be a minimum of, between the three of them, 9 escort vessels, which could be as high as, 16 or 18 escort vessels, too. So we don't know. Now, this is very concerning. This is yesterday. America says that Iran is actually preparing. Iran is actually preparing to hit the American bases. This came from the U.S. State Department in Iran. Now, this did not come from some goofy guy trying to sell you survival equipment. This is from the U.S. State Department, so it would be real, we would think. Maybe they're faking it and they want to do a false flag, but probably not. Iran is prepping options to attack American bases. And Trump is saying all options remain on the table. This is correct. Trump did not do anything that would be construed as an evacuation withdrawal and broke off any and all ideas of attacking Iran. Nothing like that. And now he's calling for an end from Khomeini's rule. So that means that he intends to kill Khomeini like Israel did to Sinwar and Hamas and Gaza, and the schmuck that ran Hezbollah, Nasrallah, who ran Hezbollah in Lebanon. So Khomeini's very, very worried to the point of being neurotic and anxiety, having high anxiety, that he's going to get killed, or Trump would love to snatch him and, bring him to the jail in New York where Maduro is. I think Trump would love to have pictures taken of Khomeini and Maduro having lunch together in the jail. I mean, could you imagine that, And having Hannity do an interview with Maduro, right? And then doing an interview with Khomeini and Maduro not knowing they were both interviewed, and then airing it together at the same time. Although Maduro would cooperate with Hannity full bore, he'd sit there and talk and talk and talk. Khomeini may not. But if he was put in jail, he probably would. So Trump wants Khomeini cracking up. He wants Khomeini knowing they're going for him. And of course, they're going to go for Trump too. And Khomeini is not happy, and he might do a preemptive strike to see how tough Trump really is, you know. At least 3 people were stabbed in Hamburg, Germany. Authorities have arrested 3 suspects linked to the IRGC of Iran that were doing the attacks in Germany. This could be sleeper agents. It could just be more lunatics. Could be sleeper agents. Could be just run-of-the-mill derelicts. We don't know yet. It'll come out. It was in Germany. The words Trump was using was, this was the official account on the State Department website that's located in Iran. The announcement came out, it's time to look for new leadership in Iran. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Now, Khomeini had the actual guts, I think, yesterday to appear at a public gathering with an audience for the occasion at Al Mabata Day, the day of Muhammad was declared a prophet. Khomeini took advantage of the occasion to accuse Trump of responsibility for all those killed in Iran in the past 2 weeks. So he did show himself publicly, but he probably did it at a point, a day or two ago, where he felt quite confident Trump wasn't going to attack. So the doctors in Iran have said, and I don't know how they had the guts to do this, but nobody knows who these doctors are. The number of deaths during the protests in Iran were at least, as a minimum, 16,500. I'm going with 20,000. Could be anywhere 20,000 up north to 50,000. I don't know where it is. I myself would go with 20,000 as the minimum, but maybe the doctors know more than me. But they're saying as a minimum, so they're not really sure. They're just saying it's probably higher than 16,500, but we don't know how much. And then they're saying, which is shocking, 330,000 injured so far. So when they say, injured, I don't know what it means. Doctors could say if you're treating people for, tearing, bloodshot eyes, from tear gas, they're injured, or pepper spray, they're injured. And then again, they may not be counting that. They may be calling injured somebody that has, a fracture of some sort, or bloody, needed stitches. So I don't know what they're calling injured. So it's pretty hard to come up with a good comment because we don't know what the heck their criteria is. That information may get released, but they got to be careful, because if they get caught releasing information like that, Iran will say they're lying and they're terrorists and they're trying to support Israel and Trump, and put them in jail as terrorists and stuff like that. So it doesn't. But you've got to look at the potential for this, because NATO countries are now in on it. And that means that if Iran wants to retaliate against NATO countries, they're going to run into the all for one and one for all. And then you got, I don't know, 30 countries or something coming after Iran, which Iran can't in a million years sustain. And we don't know how Russia is going to put up with this. Let's get a list of the NATO countries. I'll read it to you. Israel, in a way, is in NATO, kind of, but not in NATO. It's not really in NATO, but it's like got some kind of friendly relationship. But there's no way that they have to fight to defend Israel. So who's in NATO? Okay, Albania, not much of a problem. They're not going to be great fighters. Belgium, a little bit. Bulgaria, a little bit. Croatia, they can fight if they want to, but I doubt they'll get into this one too much. Czech Republic, again, a little fighting. Denmark, a little bit. Estonia, a little bit. Finland, a little bit. France, they could fight big time. Germany, too. Greece, they could put up a fight. Hungary, yeah, they could fight a little. Iceland, Italy could put up a fight. Latvia, something. Lithuania, yeah, something little. Luxembourg, a little bit. Montenegro, a little. Netherlands, a little more, maybe. North Macedonia, small. Norway, small. Poland, they could get into it. Portugal, not so great. Romania, something, not so big. Slovakia and Slovenia, something. Spain, they probably wouldn't want to get in, but they could. Sweden, not much. Turkey, they're not going to do anything. United Kingdom, they could fight. And then you have the United States and Canada. Canada can't do much. They could put up a little bit of a fight. So you got 32 countries plus Israel. And you start adding this up, and Iran's got a problem like it never had before. Of course, this is just a lot. This is just a lot of trouble. Hold on a second. I get letters all the time from people that want to sell things on my YouTube, and I can't do that because then I'm making merchandise out of people, and that's what this was, but it didn't look like that. It looked like when she wrote me, it was a prayer request, so I wanted to read it. Some of you know what transvestigation is, right? So I've been trying to do that with our artificial intelligence, and I'm getting better at it. I might actually solve a way to do it. I don't know. Maybe. I'm using different platforms of AI platforms, of course. If any of you doubt the signs of this art, you can watch old TV shows from, try to go back, get guest shows, get shows where people have people in the audience on their game shows and stuff like that from the 50s, maybe even into the 60s, where they got regular people in the audience coming up on the stage. And look at the regular people in the audience. And the key things we're told to go by are always going to work on the regular people. Interesting. Because they're not surgically modified. But when you start taking into account makeup, wardrobe, lighting, and surgery modifications, it gets very difficult today. Because they could modify a tremendous amount of things. But there are 4 or 5 things that you can't modify surgically, and that's what you go after. And you have to have more than one of them in place, and then you got your answer. If it interests you, I'll keep working on it and see where I go with it. Maybe it can't really effectively work. I don't really know why I do it. I just find it fun, but it's not really of any great value. Let me see what's going on in the live stream. If I got questions, I could try to help with the answers. Did I get it? Most of the comments are just bad, nasty things. Iran is an unfortunate situation, but I don't see how intervention is beneficial to the U.S. at this time, unlike, say, Venezuela or even Greenland. We don't want another forever war like Iraq. Well, you see, what Trump's really doing is he's going after BRICS. BRICS, BRICS, wants to sell oil off the U.S. dollar. And if they get enough of that going, it'd be very catastrophic for the American dollar, and it would push the value of the dollar down, which would cause inflation and tremendous depression in the United States. And Russia is in BRICS, and they want to sell oil off the U.S. dollar, and Trump has backed Ukraine to a tremendous extent, along with NATO, to suppress the selling the oil off the U.S. dollar. And Europe is against Russia too, and they're supporting Ukraine. And I think there's some transactions that might go off in euros on that, and they don't want to sell anything on the euro either. Then comes Iran. That's the other big seller of oil in BRICS, and that's why Trump wants to shut Iran down. If there is no Iran, then there is no oil sold by Iran, and the problem of having oil sold off the U.S. dollar has gone away. It's a very aggressive way of getting it to go away, but it gets it to go away. Okay? Best is to have a new regime change and have the oil companies come in with a friendly new regime in Iran. So that's really what Trump is after, is to stop BRICS, because BRICS is a severe threat to the United States and wants to destroy its economy. And Trump is doing this to save the economy of the U.S., which I don't care for Trump, as most of you know, but Biden and people like that Obama were far too stupid to know anything about it, or do anything. What about the temple falling and well, I don't quite understand the question. The temple was burned in 70 AD, obviously, but I don't understand what your question is. I'm sorry. Do I think the rapture is about to be happening? Well, what I think is, not tremendously important, is it? No, because I could always be wrong. But what we should pay attention to is, what does Yeshua tell us about when the rapture is? And he does tell us. The rapture means a catching up into heaven, right? And the Bible in 4 places, in one chapter, in 4 places inside John 6, tell us when the rapture is going to be. And all you got to do is believe your own Bible. But you'd be surprised how many people won't believe their own Bible. John 6:39, and this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. So the raising up again of all the people comes at the same time, at the last day, which means there's no more days. So it's after the millennium's over. And it's when Father God Jehovah comes down from heaven and burns everything up, the whole universe. And we meet him in the air because there's no place to stand, and we go up on the clouds to heaven. He says it again in John 6:40, and this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. And then he says it in John 6:44 and John 6:54. The same thing. Everybody goes up on the same day, the last day. There's no more days. That's what Yeshua said 4 times. What do I go with? What do I believe? I believe Yeshua. I believe Yeshua in the Bible. That's it. If you don't want to believe Yeshua in the Bible, that's your business. I don't know where that leaves you, but that's your business. I wouldn't go down that road myself. And I know the churches don't teach this, but who do you want to be with, Yeshua or the guys with the buildings? Did Yeshua have a big building? No. Did Yeshua have a denomination? No. No. Did Yeshua have a doctrinal statement? Well, I would say Yeshua's doctrinal statement today would be the first verse in Genesis to the last verse in Revelation. Wouldn't you? We don't have doctrinal statements. That's incorrect. What is going to happen is Yeshua is going to appear in the clouds, which is different from returning to earth. And when you see Yeshua and you're a believer, something happens to you. And it's right here in your Bible, if you want to believe it, John 6:40. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Everlasting life is not immortality. It's something like what happened before the flood. They just lived for a long time. Now, where do you see other mentions of this? Well, all through the Bible, but most people don't know about it, which is not exactly my fault. Beloved, 1 John 3:2, beloved, now we are sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him like he is. So they're going to say, oh, appear means, he's on earth, he returned. Well, no. Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man. There's a miraculous appearing. That's what the sign means. Signs and wonders, miracle. So it's saying the miracle shall appear, a miraculous appearing of the Son of Man in heaven. And, in the Shemai, in the where the birds and the airplanes fly, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So when they see him, all the tribes of the earth men. Now, the tribes of the earth, the word for earth is Haaretz, which is the land of Israel. So they're saying the tribes of the land of Israel shall mourn. Now, I'll show you in the Bible exactly where that is. And now you'll know more about end times than the heads of all the seminaries put together. Zechariah 12:10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So now the Israelites are believers because he poured his spirit out on them, the spirit of grace and of supplication, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Well, who did they stick the spear in the side where the water and the blood came out, which people say is the beginning of the church? Water for baptism, blood for the communion. So, I don't know. It sounds good. Maybe it's true. I don't know. Which they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only, and they shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem. Well, there never was a great mourning in Jerusalem when they killed Yeshua, was there? No. And this is your next big episode in the Bible, Zechariah 12:10. There's a siege around Jerusalem and Judah. Well, by the surrounding countries. And there's a siege basically right now. Where? Egypt. Over 100,000 Egyptian troops on our border with tanks and dug-in barracks and bunkers and everything else. Hamas, which is far away in Edom, which is referred to as Yemen today, shooting missiles and drones at us periodically, right? Then we got Lebanon on our north at war with us, basically. Syria sort of at war with us, but not actively. Iraq, they hate us, not actively at war with us. Turkey hates us, but they're not on our border. Neither is Iraq, neither is Iran, And we got Jordan, which is not really a good friend or anything. They'll turn against us. So now let me entice you into reading Zechariah 12. So it says, how does the siege end? In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall remain still, inhabited in her own place, even in Jerusalem. That's the real translation. They twisted a little bit in the King James, but to make it look like Schofield. But it's okay, like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. Well, who do you know? What did you ever read about in the Bible that has fire coming out of their mouth, burning up the enemies? Let's see, who would that be? I know the two witnesses. Why doesn't the church teach this? And then you see it again in Malachi 3. They don't teach this. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, Satan bots, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. Oh, that's burning them up. Oh, I see. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, Son, that's Yeshua, arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and jump about as calves out of the stall. That's the everlasting life. You become young again, and you're going to be like a baby calf jumping out of the stall. And that would be your answer to my people's days be like that of a tree, and a child shall die at 100. You know those scriptures, but you don't know how to interpret them. Now you do. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. Well, the siege people are not in Israel. They get burned up at the same time as these people. But these people that are ashes under your feet are the Satan bots in Israel, the 2/3 that get cut off in Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb. But, this was written a long time before Yeshua came, I think 230 years. So that was why you were into that. For all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah's name is Eliah or Eliyahu HaNavi. Eliah HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, HaNavi, the Navi prophet, okay? Eliah HaNavi, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Well, that's Gog and Magog. So he comes before. So he's here for Zechariah 12. Before is before. You're thinking before is a week before, but it's quite a ways before. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Malachi 4. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all that do wicked shall be stubble, and that day cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. This is a very, very, very serious passage. Okay. Now, when you go to 3, Malachi 3, verse 1, behold, I will send my Malach, my messenger, that's Eliah or Eliyahu, and he shall prepare the way before me. Elijah prepares the way for Yeshua. That's Yeshua is the Word made flesh, preparing the way for Yeshua, whom the heaven must receive till the restitution of all things. Well, Eliyahu and the other witness, Enoch, do the restitution of all things, okay? It's really on Elijah, though, Eliyahu. And and Adonai, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. Oh my, another temple, huh? It's actually real. Yeah, there is. It's called Ezekiel's temple. It's referred to as Ezekiel's temple. It's not formally called that. Even the Malach of the covenant, that's Elijah, because the Jews believe he's going to teach them the Torah, and he will, starting with Yeshua, whom you delight in. Well, they delight in him because they set place settings for him on Pesach, Passover, with a glass of wine and all that. They even leave the door open for him. They have special chairs with his name on it, and stuff like that. Whom you delight in, behold, he shall come. It's more like, behold, he shall come. Let my people go. You got it? Okay, it's like that. All right. Saith Jehovah of hosts. Let my people go is just a reference for how to, I would say, to pronounce it. It's not in the scripture here. It goes back to Exodus. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, like a fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and shall purify the sons of Levi, the Levites, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. So what do you think he's doing? He's cleaning their doctrine up. No, the rapture, the Bible says the rapture comes 4 times. Yeshua said it happens on the last day. See, that's getting the dross out, purifying the gold and the silver. That's really what it is. What do you think he's going to do? Boil a vat of oil and stick them in it and burn it out, or take a blowtorch? Now, come on. Now along with that comes lifestyle doctrine. My kid back talked to me yesterday, so I cut his hand off. Nobody does that, but you got to clean them up. So the offering, they can't be corrupt, and the offering's acceptable unto the Lord. They got to have doctrine. What did Paul say to Timothy? By doctrine, you'll save yourself. With good doctrine, you'll save yourself and those that hear you. That's what I'm trying to do, is give you good doctrine. Save you. Bad doctrine. 2 Corinthians 11:4. They have another gospel, they have another Jesus, and they receive other spirits, unclean spirits. 2 Corinthians 11:4. Okay. Down when they make that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Well, you ain't making anything in righteousness unless you're in Yeshua, because Yeshua gives you the righteousness that the Lord will never give you, could never give you. Nobody ever fully did the law except Yeshua. If anyone ever did it in completeness, it was him, probably no one else. So, but your righteousness is not of Moses' law. It's of Yeshua. Moses' law never got anybody there, okay? Your righteousness is of Yeshua, and God recognizes that righteousness. So when you go back and say, oh, I got to cover my sins, it's Yom Kippur, what are you doing? What are you saying? Oh, Yeshua never gave me righteousness. I got to go back to Moses' law, Yom Kippur, and get my righteousness that way. What? Do you understand what you're doing? All right. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, and as in the former years. Now, if they obey Jehovah and they follow things, the blessings of the law will come on them. But there's always a law. You see, Yeshua said, think not that I came to destroy the law or the prophets, but to fulfill. But they don't read the next verse. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. Okay, and then it says the one that teaches one of the least things of the law, and to not obey it, and he doesn't obey it, shall be called the least in the kingdom. But the one that does all the law and teaches all the law to the people, he'll be called great in the kingdom. But the law's changed. It's not Moses' law anymore. But when you read about the next temple in Ezekiel 43, there's a law of that temple. So that's incorporated into it. Many things are changed. Okay, like with divorce. Yeshua changed it with divorce. You couldn't just tell your wife, here's a get, that means a bill of divorce, get out, it's over. That didn't work. It doesn't work anymore. Things have changed. Okay, there's no more high priest. It goes to the line of David, the line Yeshua came from. Many, many things have changed, but there's still a law. Like, for instance, Galatians 5:19-21 has a shopping list of things that if you do, it says you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. One of those things is variance. It's in Galatians 5:19-21. Variance is multiple doctrinal statements, all of which are typically wrong, but when you do variance, it says you're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. What do you want me to say? And when you do seditions, which is divisions, which is denominations, okay, you're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. And the same with heresies. What did Paul say? You say you're with Apollos, you say you're with Cephas, and he was scorning them for that. He was chastening them for that. It's wrong. Yet the people do it and they think it's right, but the Bible says it's wrong. So what are they going to do? Go to the judgment and say, I didn't know it was wrong. Well, what do you mean? You didn't read it? Oh, I didn't think I had to believe it or something. Come on. Yeshua says he's coming back for a church without spot, wrinkle, or blemish, right? The word church is a little incorrect there. It's a kehila. It's, ecclesia, the called out from among, without spot, wrinkle, and blemish, right? So what do the people say? Well, we're not perfect. Why should the church be perfect? Well, that's not exactly what Yeshua said. He didn't say, I'm going to come back with you if you're just a little bit far from perfect and got blemishes and stuff. You gotta get into reality. Okay. Then it comes back, so the offerings are acceptable like in the former years, and that's when Israel goes to the top. Now in verse 6 it says, and I will come near you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the witches, the adulterers, against the false swearers, the ones that go to court and lie under oath, and against those that oppress the hireling and his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. For I am Jehovah, I change not, therefore you sons of Yaakov are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from mine ordinance. Okay, so, I'm just giving you an idea. So, you guys don't even know that everlasting life is coming. I mean, read Revelation 1:7. We'll read it together. Revelation 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds. That means he's in the sky, in the clouds, where the birds and the planes are, right? Okay. And every eye shall see him. Everybody sees him. And they also which pierced him, the Jews, and all kindreds, all tribes of the land shall wail because of him. Even so, amen. Yeah, now I put it together for you. And I don't know why I'm the only one doing it. I do know why. But I wish there were other people doing this, but they're not. I wish they were. Yeah, I wish they were. All right. So let's see if I have other questions. guess I'm questioned out. Okay. So, please pray for me. I'm getting harassed by the government, as are other Messianics, and for no reason. And pray that the Lord stops it and a lesson is taught to them to cut it out forever, or they're punished for it. Okay? And please ask the Lord to make it as serious as He can, because they're trying to curse the believers, and then He should curse them. Okay? Let's pray for that. Appreciate that. You got to always try to punish them. If you just stop it, I got away this time. Yeah, well, then they come back again the next time. Try to just stop it, so they get boom, boom, and then I'm not going to do that again. All right, we'll get a prayer going for everybody. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for all the true believers in the households that we would be happy, healthy, and whole with your healing and recuperative power flowing through us, healing us day by day of what needs to be healed. And I pray that for all of us and our animals and pets, that we'd be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. I pray that if we need work, we get work. If we need customers and clients, we get those. And we would have adequate funds and a little extra. And I pray we would understand the Bible better. And I pray that I can make better videos. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I pray that we would all be able to come to Israel and have meeting places where we could bring new believers and spread the gospel, the true gospel, the real gospel. Not Schofield or Darby or Catholic or any of that garbage, the real gospel. And I pray that you would correct any errors we have. And I pray that you would pour your Spirit out on us and we would walk in the gifts of the Spirit with signs and wonders following the preaching of the true gospel. And I pray that we would have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped, stuck, or stranded with any car or vehicle or transportation method, and we wouldn't have things robbed or stolen or ripped off from us. We wouldn't get scammed or frauded or deceived or have people waste our time or cause stress to come upon us, and we would get along in peace with all the neighbors and friends and families and employers and co-workers and governments and corporations that we need to do business with. And I pray you would lift off us any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments would be removed from us and our animals and pets and household and every aspect of our life as well. And you would punish those severely as you can, or as you will, the ones that are trying to bring bad things into our lives. I pray you would punish them harshly, not that it would bring them to repentance, but if that happens, it happens, and that's a good thing, but that they would stop doing it, that they would learn a very harsh lesson. And they're very dense and thick-headed as a rule, and they don't pick up very easily and change their ways unless, boom, they get a really good smack in the head, and figuratively, and then they understand. They think they're serving gods, and they're not. They're serving busted up schmuck demons, and they think they're gods. And I pray that we don't have any trouble sleeping or resting or being calm, and we have no darts coming from the enemy that hit us as their targets, and we would not be worried or upset or fretting about anything. And I pray avidly, Lord, you get rid of this democracy government in Israel, which is just inundated with despots, and it's evil, wicked, and rotten, and there's no signs of it changing. and I see no signs of any hope for it getting any better. And I pray for the two witnesses to administer Israel as soon as possible, because that's the only time anybody's going to have any relief is when that happens. This government here is just going to, I think they're going to try to keep us in war per perpetuity. Um, just keep us in war. And then people keep moving away, moving away, moving away. And then there's no more of an Israel. And then they just hunt us down in the nations. That's not going to happen. But that's what they want to happen. May it happen to them, not us. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if you're a believer, please agree with me. And I hope you got something out of this today. So the Iran thing is on, and it could change the whole world when it comes. And we just got to wait and keep your spiritual warfare up. Don't ever stop that. Don't ever stop that. And no matter what, if I'm off the air or anything like that, I'm doing boots on the ground or whatever, keep your spiritual warfare going, because once you guys stop, it's going to get worse for you if you don't do the spiritual warfare. Another tip, when you throw demons out of somebody, say, and after you leave this person, you shall stay in the place unclean spirits go, where they're thrown out of somebody for 10 years continuously, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and then say, my Heavenly Father Yehovah, I ask you to make this come to pass, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Because when you just do regular demon tossing, it doesn't have a provision for the people to stay there for 10 years. They go there, the demons rather go there, and then they could come back and go back in the person. But keep them there for 10 years so Satan runs out of inventory. And then it's not going to be a light thing for the demon to stay there for 10 years. They're going to not be wanting to go into people that you're tossing. They're going to not like that idea. Okay? So that should help you. And I'm out, guys. Take care. Thanks.